Good evening, everyone, and welcome to, I guess the more correct title should be the Migraine Aftermath stream. I've spent the last, I don't know, 3.5 hours, something like that, basically with my head wrapped in a pillow away from the light and trying to keep my head together through waves and waves of unavoidable pain and agony. No, I wasn't watching Moon Knight again. No, I was. I don't know what it is. It's like, is Friday now my migraine day? I think this happened again last week, didn't it? Was it Thursday or Friday? Either way, I don't know. I hope this doesn't become a pattern, but after, effectively just writhing around in pain for most of my afternoon, in nothing but sort of half delusion, I got restless and thought I'd just come on the air for the hell of it and say hello and just babble about a couple of things and maybe make it a variety show. I don't know. I've got a very brief, relatively TEDx sitting here that I haven't never looked at, so maybe I'll do that in a bit. I don't know. But the main topic of conversation, or maybe lecture, because I'm not really talking to anybody, I've had an idea for a long time as to how the movie Endgame should have gone. I think I might have mentioned this in the past to some people, but I thought I'd go through it again just for the hell of it. Because for whatever reason, in the course of trying to deal with the pain, my mind kept wandering to other things to try to distract myself. And because of all the onslaught in my Twitter feed about all this Scarlet Witch praise and, oh my God, it's such a great movie. And oh my God, and I know it's all shill stuff, but all the same, it just got me thinking about how Endgame should have gone in my mind. But before I get to that, who has joined me for this ambush stream? Jaeger Pony, Decode, the Asia Research Director at Ken Elliott, the gayest person on YouTube, Mike Savage, Mike R, Simon Willikins, the Memes of Destruction, Chicago Mike, TOG, good evening, Keeverdam, hello. So if you don't have any interest in listening to somebody ramble about Endgame and Marvel Comics nonsense, this might not be the time. But if you are, or if you want to hear it for a second, I'll give you my pitch. So I'm not going to try to reiterate everything that happened in Infinity War, or retell Endgame entirely. If you know, you know. If you don't, yeah. So Endgame was supposed to be the cap off of the first sort of era of the MCU. It's supposed to be the culmination of all these different things that have taken place in various movies up to this point. And I liked Endgame for the most part, but as many people have probably said in the past, there are some problems with it. And my major problem with it is Thanos. Thanos should not have been in there. It made no sense. And ironically enough, it was the interaction between Thanos and the Scarlet Witch near the end of the film that pretty much solidifies and describes the problem with Thanos in Endgame, where she comes up to him and says, "You took everything from me." And he says, "I don't even know who you are." That really sums it up. The Thanos in Endgame is not the bad guy. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy. The bad guy had his head chopped off in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So, to at least try to keep it brief for the sake, for brevity's sake, this is what, and I don't have everything figured out, okay? I don't have a whole script written or anything. So on the off chance that Script Doctor ends up in here, he's probably going to shellac me for not having all my details laid out, but I'm going to give it my shot anyway. This is what I would have done. Endgame, for the most part, goes off in the first act or so, essentially how it is. They go off and they kill Thanos, and the Infinity Gauntlet is destroyed. The 5 years, I guess, still passes. I'm not that jazzed with the whole blip thing and the missing 5 years, but it ups the stakes and it makes the end of Infinity War mean something, so I guess you leave that in. But everything in the movie kind of proceeds the same way. The heroes still go through the time heist to recollect the Infinity Gems. Although this time we're given more exposition before they go off and do the heist as to how the heist is supposed to play out. Now, if you've ever seen The Dirty Dozen, great movie, they go through in the movie the team planning out everybody's role in the caper, where they're supposed to be, the timing of it, etc. Now, this is good for a couple of reasons. One, it fills up some time in the movie. It gives some opportunity for characterization, but it also sets into the audience's mind, along with the characters, how things are supposed to go. So then when we watch everybody do their bit and we see where something goes wrong, there's that tension of all of a sudden, oops, the plan has gone off the rails. Now, the problem with Endgame is there was never a scene like that. There was never a conversation like that. We just go from, okay, we're going to go do the time heist. We have to plan this out. And then they're there. And so we don't know what is or is not supposed to be happening. I mean, we see things go wrong as they proceed, but there's not as much tension as there would be if we're in on the plan as the audience. So that's one change I would make, that everybody goes through with what they're supposed to do, or, you know, what people remember of where things were at the time that they're jumping back to, because people's memories can be kind of goofy, right? But anyway, yeah, so you have some more exposition about the planning of the time heist. Then the time heist takes place, for the most part, as it does in the movie, except for one thing. We do not have the Thanos subplot. The whole Thanos gets wind of this subplot, goes bye-bye. There is no Thanos, there's no secondary nebula, none of that stuff happens. Okay? Time heist goes off as it is. Everybody ends up back at the Avengers compound. And again, things proceed pretty much as they would. They put the Infinity Gauntlet together, the Hulk grabs it, and he snaps his fingers, and then all of a sudden, everybody starts coming back. And some of the people that come back are the people that we saw disappear in Wakanda. Specifically, Wanda. Okay? Now, see, this is why I think Wanda was a wasted character after Endgame. She should have been the surprise villain of Endgame. Now, here's why. Here's what I think should have happened. Hulk snaps, everybody's back, Wanda comes back. All right? Now, Hawkeye's got his family back, but of course he's missing Natasha, Black Widow. Everybody's got their loved ones back for the most part. Right? Bucky's back, so Steve has his best friend. The Black Panther's back, so his people have their king back. All that stuff. Everybody's kind of back, right? Except Wanda still doesn't have the Vision. Vision died before the snap, and of course he was sort of a construct of the Infinity Gem, so he doesn't come back. So once again, Wanda Maximoff is all alone, right? So we get a scene, and it happens in Endgame, where Wanda and Clint Barton are talking, and Clint is mourning the loss of Natasha, and Wanda's mourning the loss of Vision. But here's the thing. Her coming back and Vision being gone and him not coming back and seeing everybody else's loved ones and cared about ones coming back, this sparked something in her. And the weight of everything that she's been through since we met this character, or has been implied about this character, starts coming down on her. Her parents were taken from her, right? Her brother was taken from her. Her country and her people were destroyed in Age of Ultron. She inadvertently and accidentally killed the people in Civil War that led up to the Civil War. And now Vision is dead. And not only is he dead, but she had to kill him for nothing, effectively. And everybody else still suffered. And she comes back and she has nothing. And the weight of all of this death and loss overwhelms her. And in the aftermath of the celebration of everybody being back, Wanda looks over, and there's the Infinity Gauntlet. So Wanda steals the Infinity Gauntlet, or attempts to. And she is going to, in her madness now, she is going to stop this from happening to anyone ever again. She is going to kill death itself. Okay, now this is a plot line that I'm effectively stealing directly from one of the Marvel comics, but it's the Secret Wars 2 series. Long explanation. There is a creature called the Beyonder, who, at least for the time back in the 80s or whatever, was the most powerful being in the Marvel universe. They eventually retconned him into an Inhuman, which was stupid. But anyway, at this time, he could do anything because he was basically a walking universe in and of himself. And his whole journey in the Secret Wars 2 was, kind of boilerplate. I'm going to learn about humanity stuff. And in this one issue, he is sort of self-tasked or tasked by curiosity with saving people and helping the world. So he brings people food and he cures disease and things like that. And he starts thinking that, he could be spot checking humanity forever, solving little problems, but there's got to be something he can do to sort of, really make an impact. And in this particular issue of the comic book, he has this sort of human companion / guide for this story who's in the form of a reporter. And this reporter guy, over the course of the story, kind of convinces him that, what if there was no death? And so the Beyonder, now in the Marvel multiverse, different aspects of, reality and the forces of nature and so on are represented by gods / entities. And death is represented by, your basic Grim Reaper sort of setup. But anyway, the Beyonder confronts death, and the Beyonder kills death. And the entire multiverse is going nuts because they can't stop the Beyonder. He's more powerful than they are. So all of the great cosmic beings are like just standing there helpless as he basically ends a aspect of all creation. And then suddenly his human companion, it dawns on him just what has happened here. Like nothing can die. So he's like, what is the reason to live? Why get up in the morning? Why eat? Why fall in love? We're all going to go insane by living forever and on and on and on. So he's like, and so the Beyonder in some various ways actually has to like resurrect death to solve the problem. It's a very Brady Bunch ending because it's a one issue story, but it always stuck with me. So back to the story. Wanda is going to do effectively the same thing that Thanos wanted to do, but in reverse. Instead of killing off 50% of the population of the entire existence, Wanda's going to end death to prevent misery. So she's got a similar end, but she's going about it a different way. But she has absolutely no idea how to use the Infinity Gauntlet, right? She doesn't know. And she definitely is not the Hulk. She's not Thanos. And so she has to figure out some way of using this thing safely. So she needs some time. So she's going after the Infinity Gauntlet. And Clint, after a conversation with her, he's the one guy who starts getting a inkling that she's got something in mind. But he can't stop her in time. So she coats her arm in her red power and she grabs the gauntlet. And everybody's like, Wanda, no. And she kind of flies off somewhere. Like I say, I don't have all the details worked out. But she's off on a hill somewhere, sort of trying to use her powers and try to figure out and make connections with all the stones and that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, all the heroes are like, uh-oh, we got to go stop her. So they start to try to make moves. They try to talk her down. But she knows that she knows better than them. She understands their fear, but she's got to do this. She's lost too much. She's seen too much destruction. She has to stop this. So in order to slow them down, she uses the Infinity Gauntlet, or perhaps just her powers. Kind of hard to tell, because maybe the Infinity Gauntlet's enhancing her powers. And she conjures up every obstacle that her opponents, the Avengers, have in their subconscious. Which means she conjures up every supervillain from every movie to that point. And so you have a superhero versus supervillain battle. And that's where you got things like, the Abomination fighting Ant-Man, and you have Yellow Jacket fighting Iron Man, and all that stuff, right? You got all the bad guys from all the previous films showing up. Now, are they just constructs of magic? Has she teleported them there? It's kind of unclear. Make it a little... Either way, so now we have our big supervillain battle on this field while Wanda's on top of a mountain or something trying to get this thing figured out. And throughout the entire deal, she's struggling. We can see her struggle because this is a character that we have seen suffer. We can kind of empathize with her intentions, right? But we can see that she's lost it a little bit, obviously. And throughout this battle, they're fighting their opposite numbers. You see a lot of good teamwork because one person knows another person's weakness, and there's a lot of trade back and everything. Now, unfortunately, this scenario, at least as far as I have it in my mind, doesn't result, inherently in the death of Iron Man. So if they did something like this or had done something like this, there'd be no out for Robert Downey Jr. to stop playing the character per se. But anyway, they have this great battle, and eventually it comes down to everybody's trying to stop her. Even Doctor Strange, he uses a spell to make himself look and sound like Vision for a minute, and Wanda falters. But then she sees through the illusion and swats him away. And she's just about to maybe figure out how to make the gauntlet do what she wants it to do. But then Clint shows up. No superpowers, doesn't have his bow out. He just approaches her and he pleads with her, because he's gone through what she's trying to do, right? He spent his entire 5 years basically trying to murder the grief out of his own heart. But now what she's going to do is she's going to stop everyone from having a life because her heart is broken. And he tells her, I spent the last 5 years believing I would never get my family back. And now I do. You have to believe that there's a chance that you and Vision can be reunited. And he just talks to her flat. He doesn't try to fight her. He doesn't use powers, nothing. He just taps into that grief, that shared sort of grief of loss, right? And so at the very end, she just, tears down her face. She just disappears. And the Infinity Gauntlet falls to the ground. And that's, kind of where it ends, right? And then we go through kind of the ending of Endgame, where they have to take the stones back and everybody's kind of winded, but they're grateful, but now they've lost their friend. But now Wanda is in the wind. Where did she go? Well, she went off to WandaVision. You could still have WandaVision happen, and it would make a heck of a lot more sense as to why she decided to go off and create her own fantasy world. And it would lead into her becoming a, more insidious villain over time, and it would make sense in a progression way, right? Because we don't have to have the great cataclysm again. We don't have to have Wanda actually kill Death. Maybe we even get a glimpse of some of the cosmic beings in the Marvel Universe as described in the comics in her attempt or her, almost getting to the point of doing this thing, for fodder for sequels and things like that. But to me, that would have been a better culmination of all of the other movies, especially bringing back all the villains, especially acknowledging this. I mean, Wanda was like the whipping boy, for lack of a better phrase, of all the movies that she was in. And every movie, something terrible happened to her, right? It compounded in one way, shape, or form. Her backstory was just nothing but tragedy. And there was never really... I always felt like that should have some kind of payoff. That should have some kind of, build up and some kind of resolution, or at least a kind of resolution. So that's how I would have done Endgame. That's kind of how I would have done Endgame. The Thanos thing completely robs the meaning of Thanos, the character that was in Infinity War. It seemed to me like a cheap plot device to get a do-over in a battle that never really happened, to win against Thanos in battle. it felt more dramatic to me that they lost. There has to be a loss, right? There has to be instances where you don't get to be the winner, that you actually have to deal with the loss. That's what I thought was going to happen through Endgame before I saw it. They kind of gave it away in the trailers and everything that Thanos would return, but it never made any sense. So anyway, as an aside, as a random thing, as was rolling through my head during a migraine, that's my idea for what should have happened in Endgame. And we have Girls Here streamer recommends. Which streamer is that? Is that me? Is that supposed to be me? Also, some more hellos. J2022, Spudgun, I exist. Well, yes, you do. Eric Peters, Ebony Williams, Evil One. Anybody else I missed? The original Shroom, if I didn't already say that, because my brain's a little off. But hey, there you go. So yeah, there's my idea for Endgame version 2. And with the Multiverse of Madness, hey, you might as well do it, right? Speaking of comic books, I had the unique opportunity today to give my thanks to one of my favorite comic book writers, Chuck Dixon, prolific comic book writer, and specifically in my case, Punisher comic book writer, was on the Pop Culture Minefield stream earlier today. And he was the author of Punisher number 45, One Way Fair, which is my favorite Punisher story of all time. And so he was on there, and first thing I did, I sent a super chat to get it out there, and I said, I just want to thank you for this story. It was the best Punisher story ever. And he said a piece of trivia that I had no idea. I had no idea of. Apparently, that comic book and that story was his first ever Punisher story, which, blew my mind. I did not know that. When he said it, I was like, what? That was your first at-bat? And like they said on the stream, like he hit it out of the ballpark. He really did. I can think of no better Punisher story that has all of the elements that make a good Punisher story. It has New York as a character. It has detective work. It has methods. It has a twist. It's got just brutality. And not brutality for the sake of gore or something, but just like the brutality of morals, this gray area that the Punisher inhabits. Everything about that story was perfect. I did a whole stream sort of reviewing that comic book a while back. You can find it on my channel. It's a little rough around the edges, but I wanted to share that with people because I love that story. And I always wish that if they ever did a TV series of The Punisher, they'd turn that into an episode. But God forbid that any Marvel show actually just be episodic. The closest you got was maybe Daredevil, season 1 or thereabouts. But every Marvel show has to be one plot line stretched over 10 or 13 or episodes or whatever. And it's just, heaven forfend you have self-contained, strong stories all on their lonesome, right? Heaven forfend. Anyway, now what should I do? I got all the thoughts out of my head from the migraine. And I still have this, 8-minute long TEDx over here that I've never looked at. I don't know. Should I do the TEDx? Am I doing Sean Connery? I don't know. What do you guys have to say? Keeverdam, I exist. This was a spontaneous stream, by the way. Yes, I exist. And hi, I exist. Do you exist? Are you sure? That is kind of a, Schrodinger's cat kind of thing. Are you awake? Are you really here? Hey, Ebony Williams. How you doing? Let's see. Eric Peters. OMG, I'm leaving MCU shit. That's not exactly what I was going for, but okay. Chicago Mike says, do TEDx. Bridget says, yes. It's kind of ambiguous. I could have said anything just then, and that would have been your answer. So careful. Context matters. Okay. Yeah, there you go. TED Excellence, the Friday the 13th. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I have a migraine today. I don't know what the reason was last week, but maybe today was just the Friday the 13th migraine. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Okay, well, if I'm going to do a TEDx, and thank you, Poker Pierce, ayo, ayo, oh yay. I have to set up a couple things here, so I have to get another tab. I have to now. Here's the only caveat to this. As spontaneous as this is, I didn't have any time nor have any plan to, edit or prep this this TEDx for broadcast. So I don't know what the sound quality is going to be like. It might be terrible, and I just don't know it because I haven't seen it yet. So if that is the case, I guess either I'll stop it right at the beginning when I realize that it's terrible, or we'll just have to grin and bear it if it's tolerable. And hopefully it's in English because apparently it took place in Berlin. So we'll find out as we go here. Okay, so sharing is caring. This one, yes, there we go. Okay, let's try that. Yes. What is this called? Building equitable organizations. And I'm coming into I don't remember when I acquired this, so I'm coming into it completely blind. It lasts all of 8 minutes. So what the heck? Oh, any bingo card? Pick your own bingo card. Tell you what. Joker's wild. You guys pick your own bingo cards. And if you're honest about it, honor society here, but follow along. And if you happen to get a bingo, as we call things out, right, shout it out into the stream. And I'll try to pull up a bingo card of my own to try to track it for whichever one you're using. Okay. So I don't know. As an experiment, let's try that because I'm still recovering, and I think trying to track bingos myself would be a little bit too much. Anyway, all right. Let's find out about building equitable organizations from Berlin. Ella Van Niekerk, Growth Associate at Avomind. Growth Associate. That sounds like some kind of spores, mold, and fungus scientist.
Before we begin,
you guys hear that okay? It seems a little quiet to me. I don't know. You guys tell me if that's audible. Oh yeah, and call out what your card is ahead of time before we start, so that if there's any question, because this is a real serious competition here, that we can hold you to account, because accountability is important. Sounds okay, says Keeverdam. Yeah, I'll take that. All right. Before we begin, what now?
I have 2 quick questions I'd like to ask.
Excellent.
Can you please raise your hands if you own or work for a company?
Okay. I'm raising my hand.
And can you please raise your hands if you belong to the millennial or Z generations?
I am the Generation X, I believe, yes. So the answer would be no.
Okay. So to those of you who raised your hands, I am part of the Gen Zer tribe.
Oh, well, you have my condolences.
And just like the average Gen Zer, I don't own a company. I didn't found a company. I haven't even really lived long enough to have some profound piece of wisdom to share with you all today.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know if you know this. Most people at your age, whatever your age is, because it really doesn't matter, regardless of which generation they were born into, exactly the same spot. Most people do not own a company. I mean, there's a lot of people that do, but most of us don't. Most of us work for a living in jobs that we get. So already, despite your chronological, placement in the timeline or something, you're not that unique.
To be honest.
Oh, because everything prior to this was supposed to be a lie?
I graduated less than a year ago. I got confused the other day trying to figure out the size of a double bed. I have even gotten lost in a grocery store within the last week.
Oh my God, you mean you're a human being with foibles and neuroses? Still not special.
I'm just a 23-year-old with the audacity to be standing up here, taking your time in the midst of some incredible speakers, simply because I saw an opportunity, and by default, I took it.
Oh, wow. You're so audacious. Oh, wow. Gosh, you're blowing my mind. I should probably have a bingo card out just to track this, shouldn't I? I probably should. Okay, I'll just grab ye random bingo card here. I won't tell you which one I'm going to go after. I'll just pick one of them, and we'll follow along together. Let's see. I'll take that one, and sure I don't overwrite the original file because that would be problematic. Okay. Sorry, guys. Live TV and completely unplanned and all that fun stuff. All right. Well, let's go over the bingo card one time just for the heck of it. And we'll see what we got. Anecdote that probably never happened. Haven't gotten there yet. Self-vilification or wretchedness. She's being self-deprecating right now, but I don't think that's necessarily self-vilification. Systemic institutional. Microaggressions and conscious bias. Nah. Mind reading assumes motives. No. Feminism, no. Patriarchy, no. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. White supremacy, a list. Privilege, maybe. Collectivize his own demographic. Yep. Okay, we got Gen Z, millennial, whatever. So circling that one and free space. Leaves out vital context. Childhood or family anecdote. She hasn't talked about her childhood or family yet. And by the way, I'm jumping all over the cards, so you can't tell which card I'm actually using. But okay, we'll keep our ears and eyes open.
But here we are, and I am standing up here today with the intention to share with you how the next generations are reshaping recruitment.
How the next generations are reshaping recruitment. Okay, well, recruitment, as I've looked at before, depending on which direction we're going here, my theory on diversity programs and hiring in companies is this, and this is kind of derived from the whole Hive diversity, mental exercise, is that if there is a stated or let's say unstated strategy of advertising job opportunities and openings in particular either organizations or institutions wherein the population is made up in the majority of the kinds of demographics you want to fill out your workforce with in order to achieve some diversity objective. By restricting the audience to the job openings, to the demographics you desire, you obviously fill the talent pool for those potential jobs with the demographics you desire. And since the demographics you don't desire, more likely than not, had no idea that those jobs existed in the first place, they can't have then applied to a job that they could potentially be denied on the basis of what they are because they were never there in the first place. And so by setting the discriminatory apparatus at the very front of the process, you actually avoid a whole lot of legal entanglements, unless you have it written down somewhere that that's specifically your strategy and goal. Because we saw this actually played out sort of in real time in the CIA series I did for the Sunday stream, where James Clapper came on and said that's exactly what he did. And it didn't actually fix the problem. But that's my theory. That's my theory on how recruitment has to change for a company who has a goal of diversity/equity. So let's see what she has to say.
And the impact that it's going to have on your companies. Mm-hmm. You see, I came to Berlin to work for a recruitment company.
Okay.
And as a company, we have learned a lot about the wants and needs of our generations in business. Mm-hmm. And all this insight can be summarized into one simple statement.
Oh, okay.
Equity in the workplace.
Equity in the workplace. Okay, well, I hope you define equity, because as of right now, the sociological definition of equity is equality of outcome, which is a terrible goal if you want competition, innovation, etc., and so forth, and might even be an impossible goal to dream the impossible dream. So, yeah. And yes, Kieverdan points out equity, so circling equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And I want to share how this is the only way any company will survive the chaos that is called Generation Z.
Oh, the only way. It's the only way. All right. The only way.
Just so that we're on the same page, I did not say equality.
You're right. You didn't. I'm glad you make that distinction. Now, why did you make that distinction?
I am going to take it one step further. Because it is not just equality that is going to save us or allow us to build sustainable work environments. It is equity.
Okay, well, please define your terms. What is the difference between equality and equity?
You see, equality means that each individual or group of people are given the same resources and the same opportunities.
Yes, equality of opportunity. Yes. And those who can, do. Those that can't, well, fall by the wayside. That's life.
Equity, on the other hand, recognizes that each person has different circumstances, and so allocates those resources and opportunities to reach the same outcome.
Yeah. I know I'm very glad that she has defined her terms, and I'm very glad that she has stuck to the current model of these two concepts. Okay. I mean, I appreciate the honesty. But here's the thing. You don't give different resources to different people. You give different jobs to people of different abilities, right? Or they fall into those jobs as a matter of course. Because let's say, and I always bring this up because it's the most obvious example, what if the company that I want to work for is a professional basketball team? Right? So what resources are you, as the theoretical president of the basketball team, going to provide me with my far different abilities and skills than, say, I don't know, again, theoretically speaking, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? What resources are you going to give me so that I end up in the same place as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? I use that example because it's kind of ridiculous, but it also illustrates the problem. And I'm curious to know what her theory is on how this is supposed to work.
And that is what we need in order to achieve what the UN describes as sustainable and inclusive economic growth. As recruiters, when building a team, it is our duty to understand the needs of a company and the needs of a candidate.
The needs of the company and the needs of the candidate. Okay, well, if they're a candidate, now, are you talking about like someone coming into a job in the company, like fresh? Or are you just talking about like going around the company of existing employees to bring people in? Because if it's the needs of the candidate, well, the candidate first has to meet the prerequisites of the job that they are going to be fulfilling. After they get the job, well, then, yeah, what do they need to do their job? A workspace, a computer, pencils and pens, right?
And as we all know, having a strong team within a company is one of the most important factors for success. That idea has been around for ages.
Yes.
What hasn't been around for ages is the expectations regarding equity.
Okay. Equality of outcome. I'm glad you said it yourself. Okay, so how do you achieve equality of outcome in a team of different people with different backgrounds, different skill sets, different experiences? Right? What does this look like?
So why does my generation care so much about equity?
Because they don't have a world war to have to fight. Few of them have ever known what the world is like with want or, had any particular hardship. And so you're seeking some kind of grand quest to go on to fulfill your need to belong to something and to change the world. And you've been instilled with this coddled mindset of you're so special and you're going to bring, the world into balance, etc. That's my, in part. I mean, I'm not a social psychologist, obviously, and I'm still a little muddled from my headache, but, something like that.
Why is it so important to us?
So you don't have to work as hard as the previous generations, that you get things that you did not earn just because you showed up.
Very simply put, we are tired.
You're tired. You're tired. When I hear stuff like this, I think back to the stories, and I know I'm dating my family here a little bit, I guess. I think back to the stories of my grandparents having to go through the Dust Bowl and World War II and the Depression and on and on and on. You're tired. Lady, you do not know what tired looks like.
We are tired of discrimination.
Oh, are you? Well, then why do you keep perpetuating it? Please tell me how you're going to achieve equality of outcome without employing discrimination.
We are tired of inequality.
Tell me how you're going to achieve equality of outcome without keeping some people down and raising up people who haven't earned it. That's called inequality in your quest for equity.
We are tired of quality of life being a result of circumstance.
We are tired of reality. No, I can understand. Abstractly.
And we are tired of having to look at jobs solely as something we have to do to pay rent.
Oh, lady. Oh, boy. What if I like the idea that a job can be something that's solely there to pay rent? What if I like the idea of a clear and distinctive separation between my personal life and my working life? That I know where the line is between when I have to dedicate my time to someone else's needs versus taking care of myself. What if I like that dynamic? What if I appreciate that kind of professional distance? So Generation Z millennials just, okay, all right.
And because of this, we are determined to change the narrative.
Yes, you are. You're determined to not have to work as hard and to have everything given to you and not have to compete and never know the feelings of loss or failure or to feel small or to feel like you didn't matter or didn't measure up.
On a daily basis, I see firsthand that equity in the workplace has been chosen as one of these crucial starting points.
Give me an active example. You've been pretty good so far. You've defined your terms. You haven't, used any couched language in what you mean. You made a very distinct contrast between equality and equity. So you must have an active example, or at least a theoretical plan for how you would instill your version of equity in the workplace. So please don't disappoint me from here on out.
And it is proving to be quite successful.
So you have a success story. Lay it on me.
To start with an example.
Yay!
My colleagues and I speak to candidates every single day.
Candidates. Okay, so job seekers, right? And if you can hear those sirens in the background, well, that's just the result of living near both a fire station and a highway patrol office, or just, I don't know, people being sick or something.
And in at least half of the calls that we make with the younger generations,
we
are asked about diversity, company culture, and why that company is a better place to work in terms of all things equitable.
Uh, isn't that, or do you entertain the possibility that that might be a self-fulfilling prophecy? In the sense that since the current generation has been instilled with this ideology that, of course, you're going to hear people say those same things back to you. So is that evidence, or is that just affirmation?
The younger generations factor in a company's commitment to equity when taking jobs.
I don't want to work for you unless I get everything that I want without having to be as hardworking as everybody else. That's what that sounds like to me.
In short, what they are searching for is purpose over paycheck.
Really? Really? Well, then go volunteer. Go to AmeriCorps, right? Go join the Foreign Legion. Are you kidding me? Really? So they would take a lower paycheck if the quote-unquote purpose was more fulfilling? This generation, you're talking about the millennials, right? Are you sure about that?
The younger generations have also proven to stand by what they believe in.
Oh yes. No, I've seen them stand by what they believe in. The question is, do their beliefs have any foundation in reality half the time?
They are not afraid to leave their jobs if they do not agree with the company culture.
Great. That's entirely their prerogative. So what? They're going to hold the company hostage if they don't do what they said. They're going to effectively throw an adult version of a tantrum if they don't get their way. Oh boy, what a threat. What a threat. Okay.
Deloitte released a survey last year stating that 75% of all survey participants said that they would quit their jobs if their companies did not prioritize diversity and inclusion within the next 5 years.
Okay. Define diversity and inclusion, and then define what mechanisms you would instill in such companies to achieve this. What does diversity look like? How is that a measurable, goal, right? Inclusion, etc. How are you going to get there? You haven't given us an example yet. I'll remind.
And if that's not enough, data from a Glassdoor survey.
Oh, a Glassdoor. Boy, okay. By the way, what was your sample size on all these polls and studies? Where did this information come from? What exactly were the mechanisms that were put into place to acquire this data? Okay.
States that 76% of all employees and job seekers say that equity is crucial when evaluating companies.
Okay, again, give us an example of what equity looks like in your hypothetical perfect company. What does it look like? How does it work? How do you achieve it? What do you do in your recruiting process to achieve equity? Because here's the thing. If you have a job opening, there's going to be someone who doesn't get the job. So what do you do about equity then?
Now, that 76% alone should be enough to convince you to implement equity into your organizations.
76% of what? What was the sample size? What was the methodology? That's not evidence of anything. Wait, I'm sorry. I wouldn't want you to tire yourself out by explaining any further.
But just in case, I have one more tiny little point to make.
Oh, okay.
And that is that equity has proven to have a positive outcome on employee commitment and on profit.
Oh, so the motive here isn't purpose, it's profit. Oh, okay. So really people have to look at this as a sort of a mercenary angle. for all your talking and high-minded notions of, oh, it's not about the paycheck, it's about purpose, it's about, improving society and everybody's lives and everything, you still have to sell that little piece of, we're doing it for a profit motive. Okay. Give me an active example. You have said equity does these things. You have given us no evidence that it does these things. So do you have an example company where their profits were X, and then they implemented this equity scheme, and then their profits went to Y? And are you going to be able to draw a direct line between one to the other with that one excuse?
A study done by Impellum Group.
I don't want to hear a study. Because obviously, or at least I'm suspecting, you're not going to give us any other information other than the numbers that make you feel good about your own argument. I want a success story. I want you to cite a company that did what you are recommending and show us the improvements in either their retention or their profits or their innovation, something. Is that too much to ask? Kieverdam, thank you so much. GoFundMes are in the chat. Also, plays victim, we're tired. That's true. Yes, let me put the GoFundMes up there. Sorry about that. I'm so engaged with watching our speaker. Yes, plays victim, circling that one. All right.
Another recruiting company states that companies that have incorporated equity into their teams make better business decisions 87% of the time.
87% of the time. Better business decisions. How do you quantify better? How do they know a better business decision from another one? I know I'm asking rhetorical questions that will not be answered because she's just giving out numbers that make her feel good. But still, what does equity look like on the ground?
Another insight from a joint university study.
Oh, for God's sakes, really, just study. Opinion. Unknown methodology. Unknown sample size, etc. You're 6 minutes into an 8-minute presentation. You really don't have anything to show for yourself, do you?
Tells us that companies that have prioritized equity within management positions have a productivity rate of 1.32 times more than companies that have failed to implement equity into management positions.
1.32 times more. 1.32 times more. Okay. Is that beyond the average fluctuation of productivity in an average company? Is that outside the margin of error for a company's productivity? However you measure productivity, that's the other thing too. Productivity in a software development firm is a little bit more is different than a productivity in, say, a car manufacturing plant. So.
Equity in upper and lower level management has proven to be a valuable asset to companies.
How can there be upper and lower management in an equity construct? Sorry, my mind is searching for vocabulary words right now. My head is still a little off. If there's equity in your workplace, why are there tiers of leadership? That doesn't make any sense, right? Equality of outcome. How can there be a hierarchy? Why is there a boss? What? You haven't told us what equity looks like in a workplace, so I don't know.
Because it results in better, more complex approaches.
Why?
For example.
Oh, for example? Okay, you promised an example before and you didn't give one. Your example was a study, a poll. So what's your example now?
In senior management, this value gravitates towards flexibility and innovation when formulating strategy.
Word salad. You said absolutely nothing just then. I'm gonna rewind back a little bit. Let's hear that one more time, because that was kind of a masterclass in sophistry. Let's listen to that one more time.
This value gravitates towards flexibility and innovation when formulating strategy.
Uh-huh.
And in lower management, this brings better problem-solving skills into the implementation of that strategy.
How? How does it do this? What are you... I know. Why do I bother asking the questions? All right, go on.
Now, I'm no mathematician.
Well, you sure do like to dole out a bunch of numbers as evidence of something for not being a math whiz.
But better business decisions 87% of the time and a higher productivity rate within a company, this could very potentially lead to better results and more profit.
Very potentially. Okay, good job not giving out a guarantee. Very potentially. Certainly, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I gotta hear that one more time. One more time.
This could very potentially lead to better results and more profit. So if you're not going to implement equity into your company simply because it is the right thing to do,
you haven't told us what implementing equity entails at all. You've given us all the benefits and all of the advantages, but not describing exactly how does it work. You started out, I mean, we still got a minute left in this, but I doubt we'll get much else. You started out saying you're a recruiter. You do recruitment. And you didn't even describe what you do in your recruitment process to achieve equity. I'm circling weightless example. If not for that, then for all the polls that had no other context to them. Actually, it leaves out vital context. I might as well circle leaves out vital context, because that also applies to so much of this. All right.
Then why don't you implement equity for the sustainable future of your company?
Right. If not the moral case, then the profit motive, right? Even though this is all about purpose and improving people's lives and being fair, if you can't find it in your heart to be on the same moral plane of existence as I am, well, at least look at your wallet, you jerks.
Simply put,
I'll give you that. It's simply put. No frills, no details, no other explanations. It is very simply put thus far, yeah.
Simply put, equity plus workforce equals better results, more profit, and a goal that serves the short and long term.
Was coming up with an example and spelling out the process just too much of an emotional labor for you? Here's a question, a rhetorical question to our speaker. Is this what a successful presentation looks like to Generation Z? If so, I think I might see your problem.
Before we finish up,
yeah.
I would like you to stop for a second and think about your goals, your team development, and your business direction.
Okay. Done.
And most importantly, think about how the upcoming generations are going to identify with your company.
Why? If I'm hiring if I'm hiring someone for my company, if I were in charge of such things, there would be a job opening, there'd be a job description, there'd be required skills and experience necessary, And either the people coming in possess it or they don't. Or they have something that is of equal value that they can put into their resume. But what? Your company does not value equity. No, you're right. You actually have to come here and work for a paycheck. Yeah, you don't get the same amount of vacation time as the guy that's been here for 10 years slaving over a computer because he's got tenure. He's earned it. You come in at this level, you get these benefits. Over time, you may accrue other benefits with successful work and with commitment to your job. But that requires dedication, effort, etc. You don't just get handed everything off the bat and you get the same thing as the guy that's been here 10 years. Now, you're right. The world is not equitable. It doesn't work that way. And I am dying to have an example from you put forward that shows a company where somebody comes in as a starting position with the expectation that they're going to have and get everything as the same as someone that's been there for a decade. I would love to see how that attitude fits in your regular, everyday work environment.
Because in this era of recruitment, we need to take in more consideration of what the upcoming generations expect from us and need from us.
Okay, so what do you do in your recruitment process to account for those things that you will not actually mention in detail, but just in abstracts? How does your recruitment process differ from the quote-unquote classical recruitment process? How is it done in the old way, and how are you doing it for the newer generations? Compare, contrast. That's how you make an argument. That's how you sell somebody on something. You point out the problem, and then you articulate a solution for that problem. You don't just come up and say, hey, everybody, here's my snake oil. It's great. Buy it. That's exactly what you've done here. A presentation without a problem is not much of a presentation.
Because believe it or not,
I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. Sorry.
These younger generations might just be onto something.
They might. I'm telling you, you just have to roll them bones. It's got to happen sometime. Man, oh boy, it's got to happen sometime. Okay, well, there you go. For whatever it's worth. All right, so I'm going to go over the bingo card. And let's see what we got. Mind reading assumes motives. I think assumes that everybody there can't think for themselves a little bit. So circle on that one. Let's see. A list. She never did give a formal list that I can think of. So, yeah. Patriarchy, no, and likewise feminism. She never really brought up gender in any particular way. Argumentative non sequitur. Everything. Nearly everything she brought up had no payoff. Her recruitment experience never had a payoff. She never described what she does to try to achieve these goals. It's ridiculous. Systemic institutional. Systemic institutional. I mean, she talked about corporate culture. She talked about business, and yeah, I'll take it. Just because in the overall. Talking about business in general. Wage gap. Well, she talked about getting a paycheck, but she never talked about disparity in pay. So, no. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new in any of that. Anecdote that probably never happened. God forbid if she had actually given us an anecdote that we could sink our teeth into, but that never happened. White supremacy, no. Even though she brought up diversity, equity, inclusion, etc., she never did, detail anything specific in that regard. Contradicts own point or argument. She never made one, except for the fact that she kept getting caveats of doubt into it, even though she said there was absolute certainty with her percentages. So yeah, okay, I'll extend it that far. Contradicts own point or argument. Benevolent condescension. Yeah, that somehow she's just so much wiser and so much more insightful and has a better solution to everything than all those old people. Sales pitch for product or service. No. At no point did she extol the virtues or success stories of her own job, her own business, whatever it is, which was kind of surprising. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Now, like I say, she was self-deprecating in a couple of spots, but there was way, way too much smug there for me to circle that one. So, okay, so this is what I have on my card. You can follow along on your card, and then I'll take arguments for squares not yet circled. Benevolent condescension, diversity, equity, and inclusion, word salad, weightless example, argumentative non sequitur, mind reading assumes motives, plays victim, leaves out vital context, contradicts own point or argument, and collectivizes own demographic, plus free space. So if you already have a bingo, shout it out now and tell me which card you're using. But elsewise, I will take arguments for squares not yet circled on your own card if you're following along at home. So there you go. Let's see. W.R. Costin says, someone can sing. Well, kind of. I don't know if it's any good. I'm my own worst witness, but there you go. Let's see. Deco. I can't believe this chick has multiple bachelor degrees. I can. Bachelor degrees, I mean, depending on what it's a bachelor degree in, aren't exactly Everest mountains to climb or anything. So, anyone with any arguments for other squares to be circled? Anybody? Anywhere? Anything? Okay, well, it wasn't much of a mystery, but I'll put up my own card just for reference's sake. But you can use your own card, obviously. Let's see if I can get this working here. I have to do this on the proverbial fly since not pre-planned or nothing. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, doot, doot. Okay, that there, and this here, and that, and this, and this, and that, and ta-da. All right, so that's where I'm at. Anybody have any squares to be circled? Kieverdam says, Scribe, I like your singing. Oh, thank you. I don't see anybody. Nobody's got any arguments? Nothing up there? I think, privilege. I'm inclined to circle privilege just because she sure exemplifies having a whole lot of it. We're tired. Yeah, I'm going to circle that one just for the heck of it. So there you go. No arguments. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot here, honestly. I don't know what the other two cards look like on the off chance that there's a bingo in there. So, I mean, there's a lot of squares circled. So if there's not a bingo on either the A or C card, well, I guess that's just a crazy luck of the draw. But or on the off chance that nobody ended up using the A or C cards on the live show, if somebody wants to follow along in the future with an A or C card and let us know in the comments if you hit a bingo, that'd be cool. But yeah. Anyway, guys, I think I'll just, call it there. Again, random stream. Just needed to do something other than be rolling around in pain for a little bit and get my mind back to something functional after a fashion. So there you go. Tier Alexander, the Invictus Soul, Yo Scribbles, Yo Tier, Top Tier. But yeah, that's it. Unless there's something else I can think of in the last second here to entertain myself or anybody else. Not that I know of. Nothing comes to mind between talking about hypothetical Marvel movies and watching an inane TEDx. I think I've covered the bases for a Friday night in my world. Sure. But yeah, with that, hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you had a good Friday. Hope you have a good weekend ahead of you. I should be here Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream, where I'll talk about a thing that deals with stuff. Not sure yet, but we'll see. But everybody who just popped in to say hi, either just now or at the beginning of all this, thank you so much for keeping me company for a bit and listening to me ramble on nonsense at the top and then listening to nonsense at the bottom. Yeah, everybody, thank you so much for coming and joining and being here. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on the very aggressive bot that was here earlier. Otherwise, everybody else is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. Really do appreciate it. Also, please take a look at the GoFundMe's pinned to the top of the chat box to our friends Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. They, their family, and loved ones could certainly use your help if you have a couple of bucks to spare. And thank you on their behalf. But with that, everybody, have a good Friday night. Have a great weekend. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.